This is part two of a three-part vlog about our trip to New York City. I just want to show some highlights of our trip. At one point, we got tired of recording and just enjoyed our lives, but here are some highlights. First, LaGuardia Airport in New York has undergone some fabulous renovations. And while you're walking toward baggage, you can see the full New York City skyline there in the distance. Excuse my finger in the way. In my personal opinion, there are few sights as awe-inspiring as that beautiful skyline at night. It's something else, something to behold. Here we are at the Renaissance Marriott in Times Square. There's a little restaurant in the actual hotel that looks right onto all of the amazing lights of Times Square, the iconic billboards that are digital and, just scream everything that New York is about. Bright lights, hustle and bustle, and lots of activity. What a treat to eat here on the first night. So I promised that I would show you all how I packed, and unfortunately, time just continued to get away from me, and I ended up stuffing a bunch of items that I knew we would need into a bag like at the last minute. I packed the night before, which is not ideal. I hate doing that. In fact, I like to begin packing weeks before so that I make sure I don't miss anything. In fact, I have these lists of items that I keep for traveling. What do I need? What are the makeup items, the toiletry items, the skincare, etc., so that I don't miss anything. And of course, did I use any of those lists? No, I did not. So here we are in New York enjoying ourselves, and I just wanted to show you, don't judge me and don't laugh, show you what I packed for skincare and makeup. By the way, how cute is this little detail on the bathroom mirror that shows the New York City skyline? That's an amusing little touch that I really appreciate. So when I travel, if I'm going to be somewhere for a whole week, I like to take almost full-size makeup, like the exact makeup and products that I use at home. But here's the thing, I have a couple of trays that I keep in my linen closet that have a lot of sample size and travel size items that you get free with purchase and whatever. And I also put in there palettes that I don't use anymore, or items that I don't want in my regular rotation. I'll stick over in there for travel purposes. The problem becomes then you have 10,000 knick-knack paddywhack little items that I end up taking with me if I'm going on a quick trip. Like, we're not here for a long time. We're here for 5 days. It didn't seem worth it to me to pack up a bunch of full-size makeup and have that take up room in an already very small carry-on. So the problem, it sounds brilliant. Oh yeah, keep all of your little samples and things and bring those with you to use when you travel light. But then you have, like I said, just 10 million little, these are little lipsticks from NARS. It's just, it feels so janky. It feels janky. I don't care for it. So anyway, here are some foundation samples that, by the way, this is the NYX Can't Stop, Won't Stop, I think, foundation, and I absolutely hated it. I'm not going to purchase it. I ended up trying to mix a couple of colors to get the right thing. And you have all these little skincare samples. It sounds brilliant. Throw it in your bag and use it when you travel. But it's just a lot. It's a lot to keep track of, and it's too many little things, and it looks cluttered and it feels cluttered. Your sponge for makeup application. Of course, you got to bring your hair care, your dental care, and, items like this, a file, and oh Lord, all that stuff. I definitely brought a cleansing balm. This is an all-in-one. I do more steps than that when I normally wash my face at home, but this will do for now. Your nails chip, so of course you have to bring some nail polish. And if you have nail polish, you need nail polish remover. And then next thing you know, you got 20,000 little items. You need cotton balls to remove the nail polish. You need hair ties and hair bands to keep your hair back. Here are my little Anastasia little brow pencils. Oh, a little mini NARS Laguna bronzer. Some primers, the Laura Mercier caviar stick. Here's the Luminoso blush from Milani. Gosh, it's still so beautiful. And then I do have all of these bare minerals, the old palettes, but I didn't love them like for regular everyday use. Here's what's called the neutral one. It looks pinky in there, but it goes on pretty neutral on the eyes. And I also brought with me a little Dior palette that I never use that has some more cool tone colors. And yeah, I'll use that. I have MAC Velvet Teddy, which is what I have on right now. Look how grody this is. Yeah. I brought the Charlotte Tilbury little mini pillow talk. You can see, I mean, my hands are pretty small, although they're thick. Like I have fat hands, but they're little here, look how tiny that is. So in theory, it's great to have all these little itty bitty items to take with you on travel. However, it's a lot of little mini things to keep track of. I brought a simple set of brushes. I didn't get too crazy with makeup brushes. And I keep some of the cheaper brushes that I've purchased on the side for travel. You need like a big bronzer cheek kind of brush, and then a few variety of brushes for your eyeshadow look to get into different parts of your eye, a packer brush. You gotta have your tweezers, folks, and then your eyelash curler. That's about it. It's nothing very exciting, and I apologize. I built that up so much like it was going to be this exciting packing experience, and we have the flea market of samples instead. What can I say? All right, we're going to head uptown into the Bronx where I grew up, and I'm going to show my son my old neighborhood, my old stomping grounds, the elementary school that I went to, maybe even the middle school, and some of the like local spots where we'd get pizza and Chinese takeout and all those sorts of neighborhood haunts. I grew up on the top floor of this little house on the corner here and went to this elementary school. We played in that playground every single day. Every single day.
Is it the same as it was?
No, they actually put the playground in. It used to just be concrete. They didn't have all this like rubber and stuff like that. They didn't have any of that stuff on the ground. People used to fight in there. It was craziness. It was absolute craziness.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, people were crazy.
Are you using this anymore?
Yes. I didn't go to my zoned middle school. I went to one several miles away because they had a great marching band program that I wanted to be a part of. Wow, what memories just walking around this middle school. We were called the Junior High School 22 Marching Tigers. Our theme song was The Eye of the Tiger. And we practiced our formations and marching back in this playground area. It's all painted up and looks a lot better now, but in the 80s, this was just almost like a disaster zone. After band practice, we'd go across the street to these little shops and get a Jamaican beef patty and some cocoa bread, or some of this delicious Caribbean food, or a slice of pizza from the shop next door. Here we're waiting up on the elevated 4 train going downtown. One thing about New York is that there is never a shortage of people and activity, hustle, bustle, noises, smells, everything all at once. We're in Grand Central Station here, one of the most architecturally gorgeous spots in all of New York, really famous for lots of movie scenes where lovers meet here in this central part of the station and someone inevitably proposes over by that clock. Or that's like the central meeting spot or the place where all of the action happens, some action in a movie. And here's the exterior of Grand Central Station. There's all these architectural gems in New York, the Eagle and the Chrysler Building in the background. Here's the New York City Central Library, another just fantastic building. Then we're off to Burgers. And I've got to laugh because the entire time that we were in New York, I had to be on my son about this. He would not get off of that phone. Gotta have some Junior's cheesecake when you're in New York. Absolutely. And then here is iconic Times Square. Goodness gracious, there's always a gazillion, trillion, billion, fulfillion humans out here. Lots of hustling going on. All sorts of activity. Watch yourselves in Central Park. We did see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child play. It was fabulous. Lots of fantastic magical effects. Here is the theater. It's a super long show. Goodness, it was maybe 3.5 or so hours. Captivating, wonderful, worth every penny of those ridiculously priced tickets that we paid. Love the show. We walked through Central Park and then down Fifth Avenue, which is probably one of my favorite walks in all of New York City. Look at these amazingly tall buildings. And we did a little bit of window shopping in the super expensive shops on Fifth Avenue, but you already know I'm not paying those prices. So moving right along. One of my favorite things about New York City is everything there is to discover if you're just willing to walk around and look. Here is St. Thomas Cathedral on Fifth Avenue. In all the years that I lived in New York, I don't think I ever knew that this place existed or didn't pay any attention. We decided to go inside and check out the architecture. I have always loved the architecture of Catholic churches like this. What an absolutely gorgeous structure. The ceiling is made of a beautiful dark wood, and the lighting in here just gives the most cozy, cocoon like mood. But the real treasure of stumbling upon this church was the pleasure of listening to the St. Thomas Boys Choir. What angelic voices. They happened to be practicing on the day that we stumbled upon the church, and we walked in, sat in a pew, and just listened. And they transported us to some other ethereal place. Take a listen to these angelic little voices.
He who throned in a height sublime sits amid the cherubim. Hail, however blessed morn! Hail, redemption's happy dawn! Sing through all Jerusalem, Christ is born in Bethlehem.
Then we headed over to one of my favorite New York icons, St. Patrick's Cathedral. Look at this magnificence. It's amazing that a space so exquisitely crafted, so gorgeous, so well done, can sit in the middle of a very sometimes dirty city. I mean, if you've walked around New York City streets, you know they can smell funky, and they certainly have a lot of crud built up on the sidewalks, the buildings, that kind of thing. So to step into this beautiful, pristine environment is such an oasis, such a respite in the middle of a very busy, never sleeps kind of city. It's a massive church, and if you look along the walls, there are these themed mini chambers, as I call them, almost like little chapels unto themselves that have different Bible stories, figures, saints, places where you can pause and pray and be grateful, and light a candle for whatever it is you wish to think about, pray about, reflect on that day. Absolutely breathtaking little chambers. The sheer size, height, depth, width of this church is mind boggling in a city where every inch of space counts. Here we are way in lower Manhattan in the Wall Street area, and this structure is called Oculus. It is something to behold. In the back here is One World Trade Center, which you'll see in just a bit. But Oculus inside, it goes down into subway areas and shopping. So it's really just a structure that covers all of that. But boy, is this one of the coolest architectural features in New York. And that's saying a lot in a city where there are a gazillion beautiful structures. Here is the somber 9/11 memorial. There are two of these reflection pools, one where each of the buildings stood. And maybe 20 years later, but I still get heartbroken, confused, upset, Just generally torn up inside, remembering what we witnessed that day. The darkest, ugliest, most despicable aspects of humanity. Then there's Freedom Tower, the beacon of triumph, perseverance, and hope. If you go to New York and haven't done so, I highly advise getting to one of the observation decks in the city. This one is inside of Freedom Tower, over 100 stories up. When you first get out of the elevator, which is a wonderful ride, very, very quick ride for those of you that are scared of that part, you barely even feel it. You're put up against a wall, and what you're looking at is what's in the video here, this sort of amalgam video of images of New York, different parts of New York. And the coolest thing is that at the end of the video, it's a screen that rises up, and behind it are windows facing out to Lower Manhattan and Brooklyn, Queens, New Jersey, and out to the waterway. It is spectacular and takes your breath away. I didn't happen to capture that in the filming that we did. I thought I pressed record. I'm so sorry, but I did miss that portion. But here we are in the observation deck facing south. That little structure on the left is the Statue of Liberty in the middle of the water, and we are panning out to New Jersey, and here we're looking up the Hudson River, and wow, north into Manhattan. Listen, I'm very scared of heights. I had to stand back from the windows. I would have passed out if I walked up to those windows. So this was the best that I could do in terms of a view. It is absolutely stunning. Look at that skyline. 100+ stories up. I almost passed out. I think the thing we were most excited about to see in New York was Hamilton, the play. Our children love Hamilton. They know all the words to all the songs. Here is Trinity Church, where Alexander Hamilton is buried. And we stumbled upon the grave. In all my years, I didn't know that Alexander Hamilton was buried here. There is his tomb. Trinity Church is famous for lots of reasons, not the least of which is that it withstood the 9/11 attacks with no damage. Here are buried the son Philip and the wife Eliza, which are key characters in the play. Listen, Hamilton was everything. I'll talk about that in a minute. We headed over to Chelsea Market here, which is an old factory that's been converted and has a lot of eateries. Fun little place to have lunch, super crowded. So many people everywhere. But you know, that's New York. If you do not like people, if you do not like being outside, that is not the city to go visit, let me tell you, because you've got people all over the place all the time. We tried to eat at the famous Takumi taco spot here, but we just couldn't find a spot at the bar area, so ended up eating somewhere else. Here we are on the famous High Line walkway. Hey, Bryson. Up at the top of this skyscraper is another one of the famous observation decks that is open air, and I was just too scared to try that one. That one is in Midtown Manhattan, so it gives really spectacular views, but I just couldn't do it. Maybe next time. So the High Line is a walking trail that was converted from an old, no longer used rail line. And I couldn't resist showing you some footage of this parking lot in New York. If you look through the gates there, space is at such a premium that cars are stacked 3 and 4 stories high. Fascinating to watch them get those cars in and out. Here we are at Macys on 34th Street, which is iconic. Hello, you gotta go. But there's Hamilton. That was really the highlight of the trip. Of course, we couldn't take any footage inside. This is the musical to see. Oh, it takes you through the entire range of human emotions, and you fall in love with the cast. So that's it for now. We did go to the Museum of Natural History and went to the planetarium and a few other things, but at some point you just have to stop filming, stop taking pictures, and just be in it, like be in the experience. So I didn't capture footage of everything we did. This is just a few highlights. I hope you enjoyed. In part 3 of this vlog, I do share some other impressions and reflections about our experience in New York. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. What was your favorite part of part 2 of the vlog? And I'll see you in part 3.